A glowing girl in chains caught the Vampire King's attention. The night wrapped the mountains in silence, heavy and watchful. Snow drifted slowly through the dark forest below, settling on ancient trees that had witnessed centuries of blood, faith, and forgotten magic. In these lands, mortals locked their doors before dusk and whispered prayers into the cold air, for everyone knew what ruled the night. At the edge of the cliffs stood Vampire King Railthorn, unmoving as stone. His tall figure was wrapped in a black cloak that barely stirred in the wind. Silver-white hair fell over his shoulders, glowing faintly under the moonlight. His eyes, deep crimson, ancient and merciless, scanned the valley below with bored indifference. Railthorn had lived too long. Empires rose and fell like dust beneath his feet. Faiths changed names. Kings died screaming. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until the wind carried something impossible. Not blood. Not fear. Light. His gaze sharpened. Far below, a camp burned with torchlight. Church mercenaries. Iron cages. Chains marked with holy symbols. Railthorn could hear their laughter, smell their cruelty, feel their self-righteous hunger for destruction. And then he saw her. In the center of the camp, locked inside a small iron cage, sat a girl. She was thin, her clothes torn and stained with dirt and dried blood. Her wrists were bound in consecrated chains that burned into her skin. Her head was bowed, golden hair falling like a curtain around her face. But she glowed. Not brightly, no blazing fire or divine flare. Just a soft, warm radiance, like dawn trapped inside a fragile body. Even the snow near her cage melted. The guards kept their distance. Unholy thing, one muttered. She doesn't scream anymore, another said nervously. Railthorn felt something twist inside him. Not hunger. Recognition. He moved. The night swallowed him whole. When the first guard realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Railthorn emerged from the shadows behind him, swift and silent. One precise motion, and the man collapsed without a sound. Panic rippled through the camp. Steel clashed. Orders were shouted. Railthorn did not slow. Men fell like leaves beneath winter frost. Holy weapons scraped his skin, burning briefly, but he ignored the pain. His focus was fixed on the cage. On her. She lifted her head as he approached. Their eyes met. Hers were not afraid. They were ancient. Railthorn reached the cage and gripped the chains. Holy symbols burned into his palms, smoke rising from his skin. He did not release them. With a low growl, he tore the chains apart. The iron screamed and shattered. The cage door fell open. The girl tried to stand and collapsed. Railthorn caught her instinctively. She was warm. Warm enough to make his breath hitch. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Someone you should not have saved." Shouts erupted behind them. Crossbows were raised. Blessed bolts flew. One struck Railthorn's shoulder. Another his side. He staggered. The girl gasped, and then her light exploded. Radiance poured from her body like sunrise breaking the world apart. The camp was flooded with golden brilliance. Weapons melted. Chains dissolved. The ground bloomed with impossible flowers in the snow. Railthorn felt the blessed metal tear itself from his flesh. His wounds closed. He stared at her in shock. She collapsed unconscious in his arms, her glow fading to a faint shimmer. Silence followed. Snow fell again. Railthorn stood alone among broken cages and terrified survivors, holding a glowing girl whose existence defied everything he believed. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Vampire King felt something unfamiliar stir in his hollow chest. Hope. The Vampire King thought he had rescued a helpless prisoner, never knowing he had awakened a forgotten queen. The castle that feared the light. The journey to the castle passed in silence. Railthorn moved through the forest like a shadow given purpose, his steps soundless against snow and stone. The girl lay unconscious in his arms, light barely flickering beneath her skin, as fragile as a dying star. Each time her glow dimmed, something inside him tightened, an instinct he did not recognize, one that had no place in a creature of the night. Castle Noctur rose from the mountain like a crown of obsidian. Its towers pierced the clouds, carved from black stone older than human memory. Gargoyles clung to the battlements, their eyes glowing faintly as they sensed their king's return. Gates opened without command. Servants froze where they stood. They saw her. Whispers spread through the halls like poison. A creature of light. A danger. Railthorn ignored them all. He carried her straight to the eastern tower, an abandoned wing sealed centuries ago. No vampire used it anymore. Sunlight touched those chambers. "Open the shutters," he ordered. Fear rippled through the servants. My king, the sun. She needs it, he said coldly. Do it. When the windows opened, pale dawn light spilled into the chamber for the first time in generations. Railthorn laid her gently on the bed, arranging blankets as though she might break. He watched as color slowly returned to her cheeks as her breathing steadied. Only then did he step back. Only then did the weight of what he'd done settle upon him. He had brought light into darkness. And darkness did not forgive such things easily. She awoke to warmth. Real warmth. For a long moment the girl lay still, afraid that movement would shatter the illusion. Sunlight brushed her skin through open windows. Clean sheets surrounded her. The iron pain was gone. She sat up suddenly. This was not a prison. Panic flared. She rose unsteadily, crossing the room to the window. Mountains stretched endlessly below, forests untouched by fire or chains. She pressed her fingers to the glass, trembling. I'm not caged, she whispered. The door creaked open behind her. Railthorn stood there, tall and still, his white hair catching the dim edge of the shadows. He did not step into the sunlight. He remained just beyond it, as though the light itself held him at bay. You are safe, he said. She turned slowly. Now that she could truly see him, fear flickered in her eyes, but it did not root her to the floor. He saw exhaustion there. Pain. And something deeper. Pride that refused to die. Safe is a temporary thing, she replied softly. Her voice was calm. Too calm for someone who had suffered what she had. Railthorn studied her carefully. The glow beneath her skin had faded to a gentle warmth, like embers hidden beneath ash. What is your name? He asked. She hesitated. Names had power. Alira, she said at last. A partial truth. Railthorn nodded once. You were tortured. Alira's fingers curled at her sides. They called it purification, she said quietly. They said pain would burn the wrongness out of me. Anger stirred in him, cold, controlled, lethal. They will never touch you again. She met his gaze then. You cannot promise that. I can, he replied. And for the first time she believed him. Days passed. Alira remained in the eastern tower where sunlight fed her strength. Servants avoided her. Vampires whispered behind stone pillars. Some looked at her with awe. Others with hatred. Railthorn visited every night. Never crossing into the light. Never touching her again. He asked questions. Careful ones. She answered only what she chose. He noticed how she flinched at iron. How she softened when flowers bloomed in vases near her bed. How the air seemed to respond to her moods, warmer when she smiled, heavy when she fell silent. One night he found her tending a dying plant by the window. She pressed her palm to its leaves. Green returned instantly. Railthorn stopped breathing. You heal life itself, he said. She lowered her hand slowly. I remember how, she whispered. Even if I wish I didn't. Silence stretched between them. You are not human, he said at last. No, she agreed. And you are not helpless. Alira lifted her chin. I was made helpless. Something inside Railthorn shifted. He had ruled through fear for centuries. He had crushed rebellion. Broken armies. But this was cruelty without honor. They will come for you, he said. The ones who caged you. I know, she replied. You will remain here, he said. And if I refuse? Railthorn stepped closer, shadows curling at his feet. Then I will protect you anyway. She searched his face for deceit. Found none. That night Alira dreamed. Gardens burned in silver fire. Voices screamed her name. A crown shattered at her feet. And somewhere, far away, darkness reached for her, not to consume but to hold. She woke with tears on her cheeks. Railthorn was there. Watching. You're crying, he said quietly. She laughed bitterly. I forgot what it felt like to mourn. He did not offer comfort. He offered presence. And in that stillness something dangerous began to grow. Trust. The vampire king thought he was sheltering a mystery, but the light he protected was awakening. The light she tried to bury. Alira's strength returned slowly. Each sunrise fed her, filling her veins with warmth she had nearly forgotten. Each night, Railthorn watched from the shadows as the glow beneath her skin grew steadier,
You are the only
brighter,
one who can.
no longer flickering like a dying ember, but breathing like a living flame. And with her strength came memory. She began to speak in fragments at first, half-sentences murmured while staring into the fire, words shaped by pain rather than intention. They burned the groves first, she said one night, voice hollow. The trees screamed. Railthorn listened. Always. She told him of iron bells melted into chains. of prayers carved into flesh, of cages dragged from kingdom to kingdom so crowds could witness her suffering, of laughter that echoed louder than her screams. They called me a demon, she whispered. They said my light was a lie. Railthorn's hands curled slowly at his sides. For centuries he had despised the church for hunting his kind. But this was annihilation disguised as righteousness. They feared what they couldn't control, he said. Alira shook her head. They feared what reminded them of what they lost. The truth revealed itself not in a single confession, but in a moment of breaking. It happened when the bells rang. Oh, distant, hollow, church bells. Alira froze mid-step, her breath hitching. The air thickened around her, light flaring instinctively from her skin. Railthorn moved instantly, shadows folding around them both. They're close, she whispered. How close? He asked. Too close, she replied. The bells were not meant for prayer. They were a signal. Railthorn summoned his scouts. The report was grim. A procession moved through the valley. White banners. Silver weapons. Holy symbols carried openly, no longer hiding. They know you escaped, he said. Alira's hands trembled. I tried to disappear, she said. I hid my light. I buried it so deep I almost forgot who I was. She turned to him then, eyes glowing brighter than ever before. I am the last. The words fell like thunder. Railthorn did not interrupt. My people were called the Dawn Court, she continued. We were not spirits or illusions. We were guardians of balance. Light not to burn, but to restore. Her glow intensified, casting gold across the stone walls. I was their queen. Silence swallowed the chamber. Railthorn felt it, ancient power, older than his curse, older than the faith that hunted her. They destroyed my realm, Alira said softly. They caged me so the light would die with me. Her voice cracked. I survived when I shouldn't have. Railthorn stepped closer, crossing a line he had respected until now. And now? He asked. Alira laughed bitterly. Now the last fairy queen hides in a vampire's tower. Something dangerous flickered between them. Not fear. Not awe. Understanding. The castle felt the change. Walls warmed beneath her presence. Cracks sealed themselves. Withered plants bloomed. Even the shadows softened, no longer recoiling from her light, but bending around it as though curious. Railthorn noticed the difference in himself too. The hunger quieted when she was near. Not vanished, but eased. One night, she reached for him without thinking. Her fingers brushed his wrist. Warmth surged through him. Real warmth. Railthorn inhaled sharply, pain and wonder colliding inside his chest. Alira pulled back instantly. I'm sorry. Don't, he said. Their eyes locked. Light and darkness pressed together, and did not destroy each other. Something fit. The church did not wait. At dawn, smoke rose from the valley. Villages loyal to the castle burned. A message was delivered at the gates, sealed with wax and scripture. Surrender the glowing one, or all will fall. Alira read the words in silence. This is my fault, she said. Railthorn tore the parchment in half. No, he replied. This is theirs. She looked at him then, not as a protector, not as a monster, but as an equal. They will not stop, she said. And if they take me? They won't, he said coldly. I don't want more blood spilled because of me. Railthorn's voice dropped. I have spilled blood for less. Alira stepped closer, her light dimming as sorrow crept in. If I leave, she said, they might spare your people. Railthorn's eyes flared crimson. You are not a sacrifice. Railthorn. You are not a cage to be traded. His control cracked. For the first time she saw rage not sharpened by cruelty, but fueled by care. They will come, he continued. And when they do, they will learn that the night does not bow to faith. Alira's voice trembled. And if my light destroys you? Railthorn reached out slowly, placed his hand over hers. Then I will burn protecting you, he said simply. Her glow softened. And in that moment, the bond between them crossed a line neither could undo. The light she hid had awakened, and the darkness that loved her was ready to fight the world. When darkness stood before the dawn, the night before the attack was unnaturally still. No wind stirred the banners atop Castle Noctur. No wolves howled in the forests below. Even the stars seemed to watch in silence, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Railthorn stood on the highest battlement, gazing down at the valley. Fires dotted the darkness, hundreds of them, slowly tightening their circle around the mountain. The church had come in force. Soldiers, priests, hunters, engines of iron and faith. They believed the night belonged to monsters. They were wrong. Behind him, Elira approached quietly. Her presence no longer startled him. In truth, it grounded him. "They're afraid," she said softly, sensing what mortal eyes could not. "Fear sharpens their cruelty." "It sharpens mine as well," Railthorn replied. She moved beside him, her glow muted but steady. From this height, they looked like opposites carved into the same fate, shadow and sunrise standing shoulder to shoulder. "When dawn comes," Elira said, "they will strike." "They won't wait for dawn," Railthorn answered. "Faith prefers darkness when it wishes to justify slaughter." She nodded. Silence fell again. Then Elira spoke words he had not expected. "If this ends with my death," she said, voice calm but resolute, "promise me something." Railthorn turned sharply. "No." She met his gaze without flinching. "Promise me you will not let my light be used again. Burn every relic. Destroy every chain." His jaw tightened. "I won't lose you," he said. Elira smiled faintly. "You may not have a choice." The attack began at midnight. The first cannon struck the outer wall with thunderous force. Stone cracked. Ancient wards flared, and held. The second blast followed. Then the third. Railthorn moved like living night. He descended into the battlefield, shadows tearing open paths through the enemy lines. Wherever he appeared, panic followed. Silver burned his flesh, but Elira's light surged through the castle, sealing wounds before they could claim him. She stood at the heart of the tower, arms raised, eyes blazing. Light poured from her in rivers. Not fire. Not destruction. Life. The castle responded. Cracks sealed. Walls strengthened. Dead ground bloomed with impossible flowers beneath the siege engines. Soldiers faltered as vines wrapped their boots, as warmth invaded the cold certainty of their prayers. Railthorn felt her strain. Felt it like a tightening thread around his soul. "Elira," he whispered through the bond that had grown between them. "You're giving too much." She heard him. "I won't let them take this place," she replied. "Or you." Then the church revealed its final weapon. Golden vessels rose above the ranks, chalices etched with stolen symbols of light. Corrupted light. Bound, twisted, screaming. Elira gasped. "They murdered my kind to make those," she said, horror breaking through her control. The vessels ignited. Beams of warped radiance slammed into the castle. Elira screamed. Her light fractured. The walls trembled. Railthorn felt her power tearing itself apart. He abandoned the battlefield without hesitation, racing through the corridors, ignoring burning wounds, shattered stone, collapsing halls. He reached her as she fell to her knees. "Elira." She collapsed into his arms, her glow flickering violently. "I can't hold it," she whispered. "I'm burning myself away." Railthorn gathered her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "No," he said fiercely. "I will not watch you fade." Her hand trembled against his chest. "There is one way," she said weakly. "But it will bind us beyond repair." "Tell me." "A blood bond," she whispered. "Your darkness, my light." "Sure." "Balanced." Railthorn did not hesitate. "Do it." Her eyes widened. "It could destroy you." "I was already destroyed," he replied. "You reminded me." She cupped his face with shaking hands. "Then we choose together." Railthorn bared his fangs. Bit into his own wrist. Dark blood spilled, ancient, powerful, cursed. Elira pressed her lips to the wound. Light surged. Darkness answered. The world screamed. As the castle burned and faith clashed with fate, darkness and dawn made a choice the world was never meant to witness. Where dawn and night became one. The moment the blood bond sealed, the world changed. Light did not consume darkness. Darkness did not swallow light. Instead they fused. A shockwave rippled outward from the tower, tearing through the battlefield like a breath held too long and finally released. The corrupted vessels of stolen light shattered midair, their twisted radiance dissolving into harmless sparks that drifted upward like freed souls. Priests screamed as their prayers failed them. Weapons clattered uselessly to the ground. Railthorn felt agony, and then release. For the first time since his curse, the emptiness inside him filled. Not with hunger. With presence. Elira gasped as strength flooded back into her limbs. Her glow deepened, no longer fragile or flaring, but steady and vast, balanced by shadow that did not dim her but defined her. They rose together. Not as king and captive. Not as savior and victim. But as something new. Railthorn stepped onto the battlements, Elira beside him. Where they stood, dawn-colored light traced the edges of night itself. The army below froze, terror replacing faith. "This ends now," Railthorn declared, his voice carrying across the valley. Alira lifted her hand. The ground bloomed. Vines wrapped around siege engines. Cannons cracked and fell apart. Holy banners burned, not with fire but with quiet truth, turning to ash without a scream. Soldiers dropped to their knees, not struck down but stripped of certainty. Their power was gone. Their cruelty exposed. The church's commanders fled. None were chased. Justice did not need blood. Silence fell. Snow began to melt. Flowers pushed through scorched earth. When dawn finally arrived, it did not kill Railthorn. It touched him. Warmly. Alira watched in awe as sunlight brushed his skin, no longer burning, no longer forbidden. He did not become human again, but he was no longer hollow. Balance had changed him. And it had changed her. In the days that followed, the valley healed. Villages rebuilt. Chains were gathered and melted down, not into weapons but into tools. Alira ensured no relic of her people would ever be used again. Railthorn stood beside her through it all, not ruling through fear but presence. One night, beneath a sky split between moon and sunrise, Alira asked, "What are we now?" Railthorn took her hand, warm and cold intertwined. "A choice," he said. "A reminder." She smiled softly. The world would tell stories of monsters and miracles. But the truth was simpler. A broken girl was seen. A powerful king chose kindness. And in that choice, fate was rewritten. Power without compassion creates cages. But when darkness protects light, even destiny can be healed. I found